In this video, I'm going to talk about the brackets workspace. I'll be filming this video on a Mac, so if you're using a Windows machine, the shortcuts I talk about will swap the Control key for the Command key. When you start working in brackets, you may want to set up the workspace a little bit differently than the default. Most of the workspace setup can be accessed through the View menu. I'll talk about the keyboard shortcuts, but if you ever forget, go to the View menu to find what you need. The first thing I'll mention is that you can change the font size of the code by hitting Command plus the plus symbol. And you can decrease the font size with Command plus the minus symbol. You can always get back to the default size quickly by hitting Command plus 0. These shortcuts are easy to remember because they're the shortcuts for changing the font size in your browser. I personally like the default size, so I'll leave it here. If it gets too large, there's too much wrapping onto the next line, which I do not like. Speaking of word wrap, there's no shortcut for that, but you can change that on the View menu. I like to leave it on because scrolling horizontally is a pain. You can also turn line numbers on and off through the menu. Both of those options are turned on by default, but one that's off by default is Highlight Active Line. I like to turn that one on because it helps you find your cursor faster when you know what line you're on. The sidebar starts out kind of wide when you open brackets, which is fine when you're keeping the editor larger. But since I'm recording at 1280 pixels wide and need room for the live preview screen, I want to make my sidebar a little smaller. I can just drag the right side of the sidebar to make it smaller or larger. If you want to hide the sidebar, you can hit Command plus Shift plus H to toggle the display. If you hit that again, it will redisplay. In the Working Files area, if you have multiple files open, you can sort them in many ways. You can drag the files, or you can click on the gear icon and sort them by date added, name, or type. Notice that I can close out a file from the Working File set by clicking on the X, which appears when you hover over the file name. Let's look at this bottom status line. You can tell brackets if you want to use spaces or tabs and how big your indents should be. I like to normally use 2 spaces, so I'll change that here. This next box is for errors. If you're in a JavaScript file, it will lint your code, which means it's checking for syntax errors. I have this test.js file open so you can see what it looks like. When there are errors, you'll have a warning symbol. You can toggle this display by clicking on it. If I fix the errors, you can see the green check mark tells me it's good. The next box is the file type. Brackets uses this file type to determine what syntax highlighting should be used based on the extension. It does a good job of recognizing more file types, even lots of different template types, but occasionally you'll run into something it doesn't recognize. I'll open this .eco template file and it doesn't recognize it. So I can change it to HTML and it will highlight it properly now. With the last box on the right side, you can change your mode between insert or overwrite. It's similar to using the insert key on your keyboard. You can click on it, or you can actually see it toggle when you hit the insert key. On the left, it's just information of your file and cursor position. You get the current line number, column number, and total number of lines in the file, which is nice to have easily accessible. Let's look at the View menu and notice that you can turn off a few things that are turned on by default. I'll talk about this live preview highlight in another video, but notice that you can turn off the linting on save if you don't want it on. When I first started using brackets, I turned it off because I was only using bits of JavaScript and my code worked, but always had linting errors. Now that I'm more serious about my JavaScript code, I love having it turned on because it catches problems early. I'll show you how to customize the linting options in a future video. You can turn off the quick view on hover if you find it gets in the way. If we open up the CSS file and I hover on a color, it shows me the color swatch of your color. It not only shows colors, but it also shows background images and gradients. I'll change this gradient to be more obvious so you can see. I love this quick preview and use it all the time, but you can turn it off if you want. The latest version of brackets just added a themes option. Brackets comes with 2 default themes, one that is light and one that is dark. However, there are many themes available through the extension editor. If you type theme, you can see all the themes people have created for brackets. It's a good idea to actually look at a picture of the theme by clicking on More Info, so you can see if it appeals to you before you install it. If you find one you like, you can install it by clicking on the Install button. Then you need to go to Themes under the View menu and change to the theme you want. Personally, I like the lighter themes, but I know a lot of programmers love the dark themes, and you have a lot to choose from if that's your preference. So that's a pretty comprehensive look at the ways you can set up brackets to your own personal preferences. In the next lesson, I'll talk about all the different ways you can open and manage files and projects in brackets.